Around with us, his Ascension football tournament has taken the football community by storm. Live televised matches have captivated audiences here in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean as football has made a sprinting start coming out of the pandemic. Where's the new cash injection coming from? And who is this fairy godfather of Trinidad and Tobago football? Richard Ferguson, the Ascension president, is here this morning to share some news about the league and what we can expect in the future and his involvement in football. Mr. Ferguson, it is so good to have you here this morning.
It's a pleasure, Gene.
Many people are calling you the fairy godfather of football in Trinidad and Tobago. Is that a fair assessment of what you have been?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a fairy godfather. What I would say is that we have been doing our best to try and uplift football. Football, the most popular sport in Trinidad and Tobago. But it has been in a depressed area over the last 10 years, I would say. And what we are doing is we are capitalizing on an opportunity. And what we have been able to do is we have been able to change how football is played and the dynamics and the platform, right? Because what has happened is that the major impact this year is the television. And you, James, have done a great job. You are now the voice of Ascension
I'm not the
football
voice of Ascension.
Have your iconic phrases ringing in my ears, you know? A la peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
Let's talk about the Ascension tournament. Coming out of a pandemic, a football tournament that has, captivated Trinidad and Tobago, televised matches, all matches live on television. It's a first, somewhat, here in the Caribbean. Tell me about the concept behind the Ascension tournament and how it has gone for you.
Well, it has been absolutely fantastic. We have been able to engage certain corporate sponsors, Terminex, La Soufrière Maritime, Magnum, and I am happy to say that those sponsors have reported to me that their sales has increased. So we are seeing a positive impact of the football on corporate Trinidad, and the Ascension football is in its embryonic stages, and we hope to grow it from here, and hopefully it will get bigger and better as time progresses.
Yeah, you had 8 teams taking part. 10 teams taking part in the
10.
competition. We've often heard no money in football. It seems a significant investment did go in putting on the Ascension tournament.
Yes, there was a significant investment. About 4.3 million went into the tournament. Most of it was spent on television. And but whilst that is so, the crowds were significantly more than we would have forecasted. Right? I think on the last game, which was the Police Defense Force game, there were over 3,500 patrons. And they left the ground 3 o'clock in the morning.
What do you think brings people out to the Ascension tournament? We've been to football matches as stakeholders across the country for years, and we've complained about the lack of crowd attendances. You seem to have found a magic formula. What have you done differently?
Well, what we have done is we have combined entertainment. And we see football not as a sport, but as a business and as a form of entertainment. And what you want to do is you want a guy who is working hard whole week, and he want to come to the game on a Friday evening, watch some football, pretty girls on parade, music, drinks, and a party after the game. That is the formula that conforms to the Trinidad and Tobago culture. That is what Trinidadians like.
Why do you think this formula has not worked? Or, why do you think people have failed in terms of doing, what seems to be a simple solution coming from you?
Well, it's not that simple. Because, one, we are the only team that has a ground. No other team in Trinidad and Tobago has a ground. Not even Defense Force. Police has a ground, but it has no lights, it has facility issues, there are no stands, the bathroom facilities challenging. So what we have done is we have been able to get a ground from the Tunapuna Regional Corporation. Mr. Leacock was then the chairman, now it's Mr. Kwesi Robinson. And they have been fantastic to us. And we have been able to refurbish the ground and about 22 million would have spent to do the refurbishment.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. But having said that, we would have collected about 2.7 million over the 18-week tournament, which is significant. We can then use that money, pay the players, pay for the television, pay for the artists. So it's uplifting the economy. The money is circulating.
So players get paid in this tournament to play?
Rangers get paid.
Yeah.
Police get paid, defense ones get paid. The other teams are struggling. They are challenged. But we were able to take some of the profits, about 250,000, distributed to the clubs.
Is this the way going forward for local football?
Well,
is it sustainable?
It's very sustainable.
Tell us how is it sustainable for all the skeptics out there?
It's very sustainable because we have not received 1 penny from the government. We have not received any subventions, nothing like that. We didn't go cap in hand to anybody. We were able to run the tournament, make some money, pay the players, pay the teams. So it's very sustainable. And as it is right now, James, the people in La Hoquita are clamoring for more football.
Well, let me ask that, why La Hoquita? We think of football communities. La Hoquita, doesn't immediately come to mind. You chose a community like La Hoquita, not really known for its footballing prowess, and you've turned it into a football entertainment hub. Why La Hoquita?
Well, one is that when we were looking for a ground, the majority of players were from La Hoquita. The captain, Jamal Kaitan, Sicharan, Jamal Francois, and of course the coach is from La Hoquita, Dave Comina. So that was the natural place to go. In addition to that, when we did our research, what we realized is that football around the world flourishes in depressed areas. It flourishes in areas, football is a grassroots sport. It's not like tennis or golf or cricket, where you have to spend $4,000 or $5,000 on equipment to go in the nets and take a knock. No, football is a grassroots sport. It is the most popular sport in the world. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to get a ground in a community where the patrons could leave their homes and walk to the ground. Watch the team. Come and watch the team train. When we train in La Hoquita, we have a crowd.
When you're training?
When we train in, we have a crowd. We have about 400 or 500 people.
Now, prior to me coming up to that particular area in La Hoquita, we've often heard, the talk on the tongue that, it's a hot spot, as we call it in Trinidad and Tobago. I have seen people come together, in La Hoquita, and I haven't seen an incident taking place. What's the cause for this? How have you been able to do what the police and community activists for years have failed to do? Well,
before I answer that question, let me give you some statistics. And I have these statistics in front of me from the police.
You've got numbers?
Yes. Right? So in 2018, there were 26 serious crimes, 11 murders, 13 serious woundings. Serious woundings means shot without dying. In 2019, there were 19. In 2020, there was 19. And in 2021, there was 16. You're seeing the general level of serious crimes in La Hoquita. For 2022, it's 4.
4?
4.
And you believe that your football tournament is responsible for this?
Yes. Because what has happened is that you're realizing is that when you have a depressed area and people have nothing to look forward to, they become depressed and they resort to very nonsensical, very illogical things to do. When they know, listen, Friday Rangers playing police, and they like to see Rangers play police. Let's go and watch the game. Let's be excited. Let's go and watch it training. And you see their own players from the community, Jabari St. Hilaire, who you have spoken of so highly. He lives in La Hoquita. So when he comes there, he brings a crowd. And people now become more optimistic about life and about everything. Right now, the people in La Hoquita see their team as the best team in Trinidad. They see them on TV every Friday. They're overjoyed, so they're happy. Why should I want to go to jail? I want to see Rangers play.
Yeah. Now, can this competition be scaled? Can this move on to other areas as well? Do you have intentions of doing anything of this sort? What's the future like for the Ascension tournament?
Well, as you know, we would have loved to have taken it to a higher level. We had written to the normalization committee requesting permission to bring in a few teams from the Caribbean to play against Rangers, Defence Force and Police. And then you would have been able to see how high is the level of football in Trinidad.
I want you to stick a pin right there because I must take a break, but Mr. Ferguson, I'm going to keep you a while longer. And we come back after the break. We talk the Caribbean Ascension Tournament, and we talk about what is next for football in Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to Mr. Ferguson. We take a break. We come back. The 7 a.m. news is up next. The tournament has certainly lit up the football landscape in Trinidad and Tobago and broadcasting all across the region. Of course, we're talking with Mr. Richard Ferguson, president of the Ascension Tournament, who is here with us this morning. Mr. Ferguson, before we spoke about the Ascension Tournament, but many fans were quite excited when we heard talk, or wind rather, of a Caribbean Ascension Tournament. Is that idea, is that competition still on?
Well, we would have written to the chairman of the normalization committee, Mr. Robert Haddad, asking for permission to invite 3 teams from the Caribbean, Jamaica, Barbados, Grenada, to play against our police, defense force, and Rangers. And that would have been able, from that you would have been able to gauge the level of the football in Trinidad, right? My opinion is that, we would have done very well. And when you see the level of football that we play compared to the other islands, I feel we would have been
So you think Trinidad and Tobago teams, judging from your Ascension tournament, are at the level required to play the best in the Caribbean right now?
Oh, definitely. I think we would have given them a run for the money.
No, you slated October as a start date.
Yeah.
Is the competition still on? Can we look forward to that?
They have since responded and declined. They have said, no, it can't.
It's been turned down.
Football. This has been turned down, right? And from what I gather from the correspondence, it was not particularly lucid, but from what I gather, they say that their league is going to start in October, right? The Elite League, right? So we're waiting with bated breath, but still the Ascension Caribbean Cup would have been 1 week, 7 days. So even if their league were to start, it would not have placed any great
Do you plan to appeal the decision, or, what has become of the idea?
There's no appeal. That is full and final.
That's the final, say.
Yeah. And what they also said in the correspondence is they will not be supporting any private entity playing football again in Trinidad.
Now, if I'm to read to that correspondence based upon, of course, your words, it means that Ascension Tournament and tournaments like the Ascension Tournament, we do have a risk of not having another one. Is that what is being said, you think?
Under the current regime, under the current leadership, no, it will not be forthcoming, from what they have said in their correspondence. But I will still write and ask again.
All right, I'm quite intrigued to hear that. That being said, though, you had many supporters during your Ascension Tournament stint. There are many people who rant and raved, depending on who you ask. And then you've got detractors as well. Do you think you're a liked man in local football? Well,
there are some who love me, and there are some who hate me. That's what I would say.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you're such a polarizing figure in local football?
Well, one is, I try to help a lot. And this year we have helped all the zones. Every single zone, we have paid for the referees, we have paid, given prize money. We have some of our teams playing in the zones. We have sponsored the women's team. I have a team in the women's tournament. Some of the better players in the league, Afia Cornwall, Aliyah Pascal.
See, you've got your hand in pretty much a lot of the cookie jar in terms of football.
Well, what happens is that they come and they ask for assistance. And I unfortunately have a soft heart. And I try to help as much as I could.
But judging from what you're saying, though, I mean, you sound like a man who has the heart of Trinidad and Tobago football. Definitely. Why do you think then that you have detractors who question your motives?
Because I think footballers generally are very competitive. They are. And they see me as competition. They don't see me as trying to help them, which I am. I don't see other footballers as competition. I see as, us working together for the betterment of football in Trinidad. And I think one of the things about Ascension is, whilst we had a team in Ascension tournament, what won was football in Trinidad. I don't care if Rangers win or not, but football in Trinidad won because we took it at a different level. It was very popular. It was exciting. The television was fantastic. Thanks to you, you are.
So what you're saying then, you don't pay mind to the detractors?
No, I work with them. I work with everybody.
No,
there's no malice. There's no vengeance. There's nothing like that. And in the last election where I think LeCroy won, I was working with LeCroy and Wallace.
So what are your motives for local football? Where does Richard Ferguson see himself and his place in local football?
At the end of the day, I want to go to the World Cup. I want to take Trinidad and Tobago team to the World Cup.
What role would you like to have in that?
Well, at the next presidential election, I would be throwing my hat into the ring. But
so this is your official entry saying that you intend to be at the helm?
I think everybody knows that. But at the end of the day, when the dust has settled, my thing is that Trinidad needs to go to the World Cup. And the under-20 tournament, we were 2 wins away from the World Cup. 2 wins. We were this close. Right? The women's tournament as well. They're very, very close. Trinidad very, very close. Extremely close.
What is the missing ingredient, and what do you think you, Mr. Ferguson, can add to that?
Well, one of the problems that they have is that they don't play enough football. The under 17, the under 15, the under 20, they just don't play enough. You can't play 3 months of football and go and compete against Costa Rica, Mexico, Canada, who playing football for years, 4 or 5 years. You're not going to compete with them. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
Women play football 5 games. My team, probably one of the better teams. This whole league, they played 5 games. And they wouldn't play again until.
Yeah. Now, so you're openly saying that your interest is to guide and to lead Trinidad and Tobago football. Of course, they are under normalization at the moment. Mm-hmm. At the next presidential election, you're saying that Richard Ferguson's name is going to be in the hat.
Oh, definitely. And I think that is generally known in football. That is not a secret. But my name will be in the hat.
Mr. Ferguson, we are out of time, but I do thank you for being very frank and being very open with us here on the morning edition, and we certainly wish you best of luck. We certainly will have you back as well, to talk some more about your presidential plans and where do you intend to take football.
Thanks a lot, James, and I can't say enough thank you for commentating on that tournament and making it what it is today. You have been absolutely fantastic, and we can't praise you enough.
Oh, well, thank you. Very kind words from Mr. Richard Ferguson. We take a break and we come back with a woman who has been making movements in the Trinidad and Tobago sport.